أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. ربي أعوذ بك من همزات الشياطين وأعوذ بك ربي أن يحضرون. ربي أعوذ بك من همزات الشياطين وأعوذ بك ربي أن يحضرون. ربي أعوذ بك من همزات الشياطين وأعوذ بك ربي أن يحضرون. أفحسبتم أنما خلقناكم عبثا وأنكم إلينا لا ترجعون. فتعالى الله الملك الحق لا إله إلا هو رب العرش الكريم. ومن يجمع الله إلها آخر لا برهان له به فإنما حسابه عند ربه إنه لا يفلح الكافرون. وقل رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين. فسبحان الله حين تمسون وحين تصبحون وله الحمد في السماوات والأرض وعشيا وحين تظهرون. يخرج الحي من الميت ويخرج الميت من الحي ويحيي الأرض بعد موتها وكذلك تخرجون. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون. هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. سلام على نوح في العالمين إنا كذلك نجزي المحسنين إنه من عبادنا المؤمنين. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. اللهم إني أصبحت منك في نعمة وعافية وستر فأتمم نعمتك علي وعافيتك وسترك في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم إني أصبحت منك في نعمة وعافية وستر فأتمم نعمتك علي وعافيتك وسترك في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم إني أصبحت منك في نعمة وعافية وستر فأتمم نعمتك علي وعافيتك وسترك في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم إني أصبحت أشهدك وأشهد حملة عرشك وملائكتك وجميع خلقك أنك أنت الله لا إله إلا أنت وحدك لا شريك لك وأن سيدنا محمدا عبدك ورسولك. اللهم إني أصبحت أشهدك وأشهد حملة عرشك وملائكتك وجميع خلقك أنك أنت الله لا إله إلا أنت وحدك لا شريك لك وأن سيدنا محمدا عبدك ورسولك. اللهم إني أصبحت أشهدك وأشهد حملة عرشك وملائكتك وجميع خلقك أنك أنت الله لا إله إلا أنت وحدك لا شريك لك وأن سيدنا محمدا عبدك ورسولك. اللهم إني أصبحت أشهدك وأشهد حملة عرشك وملائكتك وجميع خلقك أنك أنت الله لا إله إلا أنت وحدك لا شريك لك وأن سيدنا محمدا عبدك ورسولك. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيده. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيده. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيده. آمنت بالله العظيم وكفرت بجبت والطاغوت واستمسكت بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله السميع العليم. آمنت بالله العظيم وكفرت بالجبت والطاغوت واستمسكت بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله السميع العليم. آمنت بالله العظيم وكفرت بالجبت والطاغوت واستمسكت بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله السميع العليم. رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبسيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم نبيا ورسولا. رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم نبيا ورسولا. رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبسيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم نبيا ورسولا. رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبسيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم نبيا ورسولا. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلته رب العرش العظيم. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلته رب العرش العظيم. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلته رب العرش العظيم. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلته رب العرش العظيم. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلته رب العرش العظيم. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلته رب العرش العظيم. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلته رب العرش العظيم. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. 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 اللهم إني أسألك من فجاءة الخير وأعوذ بك من فجاءة الشر. اللهم أنت ربي لا إله إلا أنت خلقتني وأنا عبدك وأنا على عهدك ووعدك ما استطعت. أعوذ بك من شر ما صنعت أبوء لك بنعمتك علي وأبوء بذنبي فاغفر لي فإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. اللهم أنت ربي لا إله إلا أنت عليك توكلت وأنت رب العرش العظيم. ما شاء الله كان وما لم يشأ لم يكن ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. أعلم أن الله على كل شيء قدير وأن الله قد أحاط بكل شيء علما. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من شر نفسي ومن شر كل دابة أنت آخذ بناصيتها إن ربي على صراط مستقيم. يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك أستغيث من عذابك أستجير. اصلح لي شأني كله ولا تكلني إلى نفسي ولا إلى أحد من خلقك طرفة عين. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الهم والحزن وأعوذ بك من العجز والكسل وأعوذ بك من الجبن والبخل وأعوذ بك من غلبة الدين وقهر الرجال. اللهم إني أسألك العافية في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم إني أسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة في ديني ودنياي وأهلي ومالي. اللهم استر عوراتي وآمن روعاتي. اللهم احفظني من بين يدي ومن خلفي وعن يميني وعن شمالي ومن فوقي وأعوذ بعظمتك أن أغتال من تحتي. اللهم أنت خلقتني وأنت تهديني وأنت تطعمني وأنت تسقيني وأنت تميتني وأنت تحييني وأنت على كل شيء قدير. أصبحنا على فطرة الإسلام وعلى كلمة الإخلاص وعلى دين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم نبيا ورسول صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وعلى ملة أبينا إبراهيم حنيفا مسلما وما كان من المشركين. اللهم بك أصبحنا وبك أمسينا وبك نحيا وبك نموت وعليك نتوكل وإليك النشور. أصبحنا وأصبح الملك لله والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم إني أسألك خير هذا اليوم فتحه ونصره ونوره وبركته وهداه. اللهم إني أسألك خير هذا اليوم وخير ما فيه وخير ما قبله وخير ما بعده وأعوذ بك من شر هذا اليوم وشر ما فيه وشر ما قبله وشر ما بعده. اللهم ما أصبح بي من نعمة أو بأحد من خلقك فمنك وحدك لا شريك لك فلك الحمد ولك الشكر على ذلك. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله العظيم وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله العظيم وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله العظيم وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله عدد ما خلق بالسماء. سبحان الله عدد ما خلق بالأرض. سبحان الله عدد ما بين ذلك. سبحان الله عدد ما هو خالق. الحمد لله عدد ما خلق بالسماء. الحمد لله عدد ما خلق بالأرض. الحمد لله عدد ما بين ذلك. الحمد لله عدد ما هو خالق. لا إله إلا الله عدد ما خلق بالسماء. لا إله إلا الله عدد ما خلق بالأرض. لا إله إلا الله عدد ما بين ذلك. لا إله إلا الله عدد ما هو خالق. الله أكبر عدد ما خلق بالسماء. الله أكبر عدد ما خلق بالأرض. الله أكبر عدد ما بين ذلك. الله أكبر عدد ما هو خالق. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عدد ما خلق في السماء. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عدد ما خلق في الأرض. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عدد ما بين ذلك. لا إله إلا الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عدد ما هو خالق. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد مفتاح باب رحمة الله عدد ما في علم الله. صلاة وسلاما دائمين بدوام ملك الله وعلى آله وصحبه عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد مفتاح باب رحمة الله عدد ما في علم الله. صلاة وسلاما دائمين بدوام ملك الله وعلى آله وصحبه عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد مفتاح باب رحمة الله عدد ما في علم الله. صلاة وسلاما دائمين بدوام ملك الله وعلى آله وصحبه عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردنا الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كما أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أن نطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين فلا ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنا يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون. اللهم إنا نستحفظك ونستودعك أدياننا وأبداننا وأنفسنا وأهلنا وأولادنا وأموالنا وكل شيء أعطيتنا. اللهم اجعلنا وإياهم في كنفك وأمانك وعيادك من كل شيطان مريد وجبار عنيد وذي بغي وذي حسد ومن شر كل ذي شر إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم جملنا بالعافية والسلامة وحققنا بالتقوى والاستقامة وأعدنا من موجبات الندامة إنك سميع الدعاء. اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا وأولادنا ومشايخنا وإخواننا في الدين وأصحابنا ولمن أحبنا فيك ولمن أحسن إلينا والمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات يا رب العالمين. وصل اللهم على عبدك ورسولك سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وارزقنا كمال المتابعة له ظاهرا وباطنا في عافية وسلامة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. On the first day of the last 10 nights of fasting, which is really 9 or 10 days, because there's 29 or 30 days. So last 10 nights, if we say that we have the first 10 nights and then there are second 10 nights, mercy and then forgiveness and then freedom from the fire, well, the last 10 nights maybe 9 or 10 nights. And I've what I mentioned before is that Laylatul Qadr is one of the 8 things that are hidden inside of other things. Reason being is so that the search itself strengthens you. It's like research. The search itself strengthens you. Anyone who's done research before, if you're researching something, you get good. You learn so much more than if you're just able to Google something or use some kind of a search tool to find exactly what you're looking for. I remember one of the first serious research papers I did involved Ibn Khaldun's History of the World. And he has a huge book, literally, it's called like the History of the World. And I decided to do the history of the city of Fez because I just was interested in that city. And I went to study it and we had to write an abstract. It was due on Monday. Well, that Saturday and Sunday, I couldn't do any studies. I was fully booked and busy. I couldn't do anything. So I had to do this thing on Friday. So I go down into the library, and in Georgetown University, the Islamic section of the library, it's underground. A lot of these libraries, they go under because there's a limit, like in Washington, D.C. and other places, there's a limit how high you can go. So they have to go under the ground. So I'm sitting here, I'm under the ground, and I look at the thing. Sorry, this was Thursday. I look at the book, I find the book, and this book, essentially, it's a book printed from the 1950s. There's no index. There's no table of contents. They literally printed, for the first page is the publisher's information, and the second page is the book. That's it. There's no index. And if you've ever seen those books before, oh my goodness, I don't even know how I did it, to be honest with you. They don't have, there's no bold, there's no demarcation. So when you're reading, you'll see, for example, the beginning of a section will just be a word on the line. Unlike what we know, we're used to a demarcation, like a chapter title is centered and in the top of the page, and then there's a text underneath it. Well, they have that for the major sections, but like, for example, it'll say, for example, the 5th century, the 5th century after the Hijrah. That's the title. Thereafter, all the content is in one flowing set of text. No bold, nothing. And get this, they're not even periods, because the Arabs, when they wrote, they didn't have commas or periods. When you want to start a new sentence, you say what? This is called harf al-waw al-istinaf, waw, to begin a new sentence. So this is literally the most impossible thing I looked at. I just closed the book right away and I just went upstairs. There's no way I'm doing this. I get to him next day and I said, we got a big problem. Oh, I actually emailed him. I emailed him on the spot. He didn't answer the email. I went to him next day at class. He says to me, I said to him, I need to see you after class. He said, okay. So we're talking after class. He said, Professor, this book, I mean, no one could research this book because there's no index, there's no table of contents, and they have like the header for like the entire century. That's the only header you get, right? And it's there's nothing else. And he said, oh yeah, I got your email. I said, yeah, so what do you think? What am I going to do? He just said one word. He looked at me and he said, plow. I was like, huh? He said, plow through it. That was the best lesson I've had in graduate school. After that, there's nothing else. To be quite honest with you, that was it. He looked me dead in the eye and he said, plow. I got this like a shock in my life. What the, you see how big this, and by the way, we're not talking one book. We're talking a 13-volume book. 13 volumes. Each volume is about 500 pages. And it's yellow page books. You know, those old yellow page Arabic books. So I just couldn't believe what he said. I went down there. It's Friday night. Okay, well, all my Friday plans are canceled. Saturday and Sundays are already gone, and the thing is due Monday. So I get there at 8 o'clock at night after all is said and done and for the day. And I pick up the first volume and I literally had to go through, I'm not even kidding you, page by page, because you don't know where the section is going to start. You don't know where the section is going to start because there's no heading. They only have headings for like the century or something like that. It's some huge top like subheading that subsumes underneath it, subsumes so much content. It took me about 4 hours to find his chapter on the history of the city of Fez. I would have got to tell you, my Arabic my ability to read Arabic probably got stronger in that 4 hours than any other 4-hour period, probably more than any other previous 4-month period. Because in research, you're searching, you're literally reading. And not only that, you get a really good idea what this book is about. And you get to see some really amazing things while you're researching, while you're searching. And you finally get to your section. And you know, the thing is, I didn't even want to cite this because, man, there's no other human being who's ever going to do this. So I might be the only person on the earth who has accessed this chapter of Ibn Khaldun's History of Fez, because no other human being is going to sit there. What's your motive to sit there, go through this entire book that's not, there's no modern publishing. The only modern publication is his introduction, which is the famous Muqaddimah of Ibn Khaldun. Is literally the introduction. That's what everyone cares about. No one cares about the rest of the book. So I'm thinking here, like, I don't even want to cite this because people are going to go read that. It's on my work. It's like they're cheating. And it was so satisfying to finally find that section. And to know that you're going to be one of the only few people in the world who's ever found it. And then you read through it, and that's the benefit of searching. Thereafter, since I did that, I really had no sympathy anymore for anyone who asks a question that is based on laziness. There are questions based on knowledge, and there are questions based on laziness. If you ask a question that's based on laziness, the best thing for you is to be told, go find it yourself. Such as, give you a modern example, like on here, just a day-to-day example. Where's the screwdriver? Where do you think the screwdriver is going to be? It's not going to be in the refrigerator. It's not going to be, where would it be? There's only a few places where human beings would use screwdrivers. So go find the screwdriver. Don't ask a question that's based on laziness. Ask a question that's based on ignorance. I'll give you all day. But a question based on, see, the thing is, you have to experience it yourself. You got to have somebody who tells you plow. Go find it. 4 hours just to find the section. Today, subhanAllah, with the technology we have, there are databases, search engines that I can find literally in more than 15,000 Islamic texts. By typing in a search engine, you type in, if I want to know if I know the title of the book already, I'll just type in the title of the book. I type in, if I know 1 or 2 or 3 keywords in a row that would be in a sentence, and then all the entries would show up, and I'm literally clicking on my phone on my couch, right? But this was in a dusty basement. No one's there. Everyone's gone. It's Friday night. It's actually, such a memorable experience. Obviously, here I am 20 years later telling you about it, because it was such a memorable experience. All that stuff is gone now. Everything's just quick search, boom, 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 which of course ends up having more benefits than not, because we end up with a lot more knowledge, but it's a lot less memorable. So when we're given these searches, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves to put us onto a search. He loves to put us into a search. That's why there are mysteries and there are secrets. And there's certain things that don't get passed on from generation to generation. Unlike scientific knowledge, which we pass on. We write the book, we pass it on. Certain knowledge, we pass it on. Other knowledges are just lost. Every generation has to rediscover it themselves. Why? Because Allah loves the search. We benefit so much from the search. And this idea of Laylatul Qadr being hidden, and the 8 things that are hidden, and we already gave a talk on that. 8 things hidden inside of 8 other things, is because in the process of trying to find something, you get good at many, many other things. And this idea of Laylatul Qadr being hidden and really being the big deal, that's the golden egg, is Laylatul Qadr. But because you have to, the only way to figure it out is to block out the entire 10 nights and give them the entire 10 nights your effort. What ends up happening is you get good at the ibadah. You get stronger in your dua. Your body gets used to it, being awake at that hour. And so when the moment you do hit Laylatul Qadr, you're going. You've been doing this for 5-6 days already. You may be doing this for 7 or 8 days. And so when you do hit Laylatul Qadr, you're already in a groove. And that's the value of it. You're already in a groove. You hit the ground running and you hit the ball out of the park because you're already in a groove, because you've been doing this and you've gotten good at it. You got good at it the whole month, but then you really got good at it in the last few days. And if you're observant about yourself, you'll start seeing yourself that every Ramadan just by human nature, you should be getting better at it. So maybe when you were younger, it was a big headache, and you get a lot of headaches, and you struggle, and you're not really good at it. But as the years go on, you start to learn little tricks. So why am I struggling? Maybe I'm overeating. Maybe I eat the wrong thing at iftar. Right? Maybe I'm too nervous about what my body can handle and can't handle. I'm so nervous, I'm overeating. Right? So, and also people go through phases in life. Sometimes your nafs is really strong when you're young. There comes a time where it's like a switch flips and your nafs isn't really that bad, right? Your nafs just starts getting better, right? So that's the development that we go through. And when we go through those developments, you just get better. And that's the concept here. So that's where we're headed, and that's where we are. And we just had the first night of the odd nights, 21st, first of the last 10. But there is one thing that I talked about at the after the in the masjid last night, there's something that we have to be careful of. The Nisf of Sha'ban, when it came around, everyone's forgiven on the Nisf of Sha'ban who seeks forgiveness, except for the Muslim who has strife with another Muslim. Now, it's wonderful to keep the Jama'ah. It's the best thing is to always be with the Jama'ah of Muslims. But beware of an underbelly there. Every ni'mah has a rough underbelly or a pitfall. And the pitfall there is الشحناء والبغضاء. Allah says, لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى. Don't nullify your good deeds, your sadaqat, in general, your good deeds in general, by boasting or harming. Don't boast and don't harm. So when we're constantly keeping the company of Muslim, we lose perspective. We lose perspective that every Muslim is your ally. It's supposed to be. Every Muslim is your brother. It's supposed to be. You boast, you hurt them. If you boast and you show off, you hurt the have-nots of the society, of the world, of the ummah. And when you are so involved with Muslims only, you end up losing perspective and you may develop some kind of feud. And in that feud, you harm one another. You compete against one another. You develop animosity towards one another. And you try to tear people down. And you try to ruin things for other people. And you enjoy the downfall of your rivals and your enemies. All of this is at the expense of all the good deeds that you've done. So one of the first lessons that we have to take on, and we're going to try to live this life as Muslims here and always be around the community and the jama'ah, etc., is you got to be aware, don't nullify your deeds. Don't step on the little mine that will put your points back down to zero, like in a video game. You step on a mine, all right, all your points are back down to zero. That's as if all the work you've done is nullified. Why? Because this ni'mah of al-jama'ah, it's ruined when we start having competition, when we start having hatred, when we start to have vendettas. Right. So clean your heart out, and we all have to clean our hearts out so that we don't nullify our deeds by doing things for the sake of that hurt other people. You say, oh, well, I have to warn everyone because he's so bad, or she's so bad, or this, that, or the other. Check your nafs at the door. Let people change. Maybe people change. Okay, maybe you experienced something bad from somebody. I know I did, but years have passed. Maybe that person changed. Right? Years have passed since someone hurt me and I hurt them. Years have passed. Maybe they changed. And do I take pleasure in witnessing their downfall? If that's the case, you're burning right through your good deeds with every minute of that. Because the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam told the Sahaba, don't tell me anything bad about my companions. I want to go out with a pure heart. When the Prophet meets the Muslims, he wants to come and see them and with his own pure heart. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam loathed nothing more than competition amongst Muslims and fighting amongst his own ummah. This was the dua that he had asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He had prayed for this and it was not granted it. Well, one of the reasons it wasn't granted it is because this involves the actions of people that they're going to be taken account for. Allah has chosen to test us with this. That's why it's one of the reasons why the Prophet ﷺ had asked for the unity of the ummah and he was not granted it. Why? Because Allah has chosen, and it's mentioned in the Quran, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بَعْضَكُمْ بِبَعْضٍ. We will test you with one another. He has chosen to test us with this subject, with this topic, this issue of, are we going to be at each other's throats or not? Are we going to wish for the downfall of people who hurt us years ago or not? Are we going to let things bottle up? So I say this on the first of the last 10 nights, just as I said it in the Nisf of Sha'ban, because that's the precondition of benefiting, of getting anything out of Laylatul Qadr in the last 10 nights. If nisf by qiyas, if by nisf of Shaban, there's no benefit for the person who has shahna, hatred towards another Muslim, then we are safe to assume that we must fulfill this precondition of purifying that hatred before Laylat al-Qadr. This is why I said it in the masjid last night and said it again here today, because that's a precondition. You want to pray, you have to make wudu. You want to enter the masjid, you have to make sure there's no najasa on your body. You want to benefit spiritually, you have to remove the spiritual najasa, and that is the conflict with Muslims, hurting other Muslims, undermining other Muslims. Right. If you find yourself in such a filled with hatred, step away. Some people, I have to say, they're terrible people. They're terrible human beings. Their presence will instigate within you, within your heart, all the evil. They'll bring it out. They'll bring it right out. That's how much they rub us the wrong way. What's the solution? You only have one solution. Stay away from them. You're not going to change them. Don't try to change them. Don't engage them. Don't hate on them, because then you're just like them. I was part of a WhatsApp group, and there are many mal'oon WhatsApp groups. There are WhatsApp groups that are cursed, that take people to the fire, because there is so much blood, yani metaphoric blood, that is spilled in WhatsApp groups. But I was part of, someone put me on a WhatsApp group. All we did is talk about how bad someone else was. Now, that person was vile. But by talking about how vile somebody is, number one, you give it reality. It becomes bigger than it is. If we sit here talking about, like I said the other day, if we sit here talking about Volvos, when you go out in the street, you're going to see Volvos everywhere. Right? If we don't talk about Volvos, you wouldn't think of, you haven't thought about a Volvo like maybe ever, until someone makes you conscious of it. Then you go out in the street, you'll see Volvos every day, whereas you hadn't seen them before. They've been in the corner of your eye and your peripheral vision, and that's it. So once you start trying to negate something and hate something, you actually, it becomes bigger in your mind. That's the nature of dhikr. Dhikr is for the good and the bad. Whether you're doing dhikr of Allah or dhikr of something else, it becomes bigger in your head. And you start seeing it more, and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, why are some people are addicts? Because they keep saying to themselves, stop doing this, stop doing this, stop doing this. It becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. You can't resist something except by first giving it a reality in your mind, a consciousness. So I told them, guys, you're being taken for a ride here, because all you do is think about this guy. That's all you do. You're thinking about him. Oh, we have to answer him. No, you don't. By answering him, you're giving it even more fuel. Right. So I had to politely withdraw from that group without, passing a judgment on these brothers, because everyone is in their own state and condition. Right. But if you truly don't like something, don't even mention it. You don't need to negate it and hate upon it, because the more you hate on it, well, you're just one of it right now. Now you're just one of them, because if they're doing damage, well, now we're doing damage back to him. And the Prophet says, "La darara wa la dirar." Don't harm people, and don't return harm to people. And that's the right way to do things. If someone bothers you so much, eliminate them from your head. Don't try to destroy them. The effort to destroy them will destroy you. You will become just like them, a cancer. I guarantee you 100%. If you try to destroy a cancerous person, over years and the months and years that you spend time doing this, you will become a cancerous person, and someone will one day will make dua upon you, because you've become that. Anything that you interact with, their qualities rub off on you, whether you like it or not. So if I am interacting with somebody, let's say stingy, and I start hating on them and hating on them, right? Something of his terrible characteristics, I will draw upon it, because you keep interacting with them. And how many times this has happened, that a civilization or a country has gone at war with another country, and they both end up being actually more similar than different because they're interacting with each other so much, even in the negative. So don't try to kill a monster. You might become a monster. The right way to do it is, if it bothers you so much, block it out of your mind. And blocking something out of your mind is by displacement. It's by putting something better in your mind. And you should create a trigger. Every time that this person is mentioned, I think about this instead. Because you can't say, stop thinking about so-and-so. But you can say, do think about such and such. So every time someone comes up, let's say some negative personality comes up, and I don't want to hear their name and they really bother me, I'm going to actually think about so-and-so. Because so-and-so makes me happy. I'm going to find the person who's like the opposite of that person, the complete polar opposite. Someone's all negative, I'm going to think of someone all positive. Someone is misguided, I'm going to think of someone guided. Someone's destructive, I'm going to think of someone constructive. And I'm going to dwell upon that. Displacement is the method. So, لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى, as we go into these last 10 days. And it's very easy. All you have to do is we have to recognize ourselves. We have to do muhasaba of ourselves and see, do I have that for anybody? If I do, then inni bari'un minhu inni akhafullah. I'm now completely free from this, for I fear Allah. This is one of the words of Iblis, believe it or not. And Iblis, we know that he knows Allah exists and he knows he's losing this battle, but his hatred for Adam, you see, his hatred of Adam has blinded him so much that he will actually put himself in eternal perdition, eternal hellfire and damnation because of his hatred for another created being. Okay. So we have to say, if we discover that about ourselves, I say to myself, we have to say, I'm innocent of this. I have not, or I'm free of this. Not innocent. I'm free of this. I have freed myself from this. I've disavowed. That's actually the better word. I have disavowed myself from this hatred because I fear Allah. Inni bari'un minhu inni akhafullah. And if you've ever found yourself trying to damage or undermine, or you enjoy hearing the bad news about anything in the ummah, then I highly recommend, and I tell this to myself first, to review that, because that may, in the sight of Allah, nullify everything we're doing. Everything. لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم. Don't negate and nullify your sadaqat, your good deeds. بالمن والأذى, by showing off or harming. You do good deeds, and you now you want to milk it. You want to tell the world. You nullify it. You might have, for example, let's say you did a khatam or something like that. You go and tell everybody about it and post it and post a picture of yourself. Here I am. And now all these people are looking at it. And, some people feeling, I don't know how to do, I don't even know how to read Arabic, and he's doing a khatam. So you make someone feel bad. Another person is like, wow, look at how beautiful his home is. And his musalla, and my musalla is trash because I don't have any means to do that. And now he feels bad. All right. And then another says, oh, you are so amazing. You did a khatam. That's so beautiful. That's amazing. And now you're puffed up. So you've made people feel bad and you puffed yourself up. Why? Because you did men. You went and displaying your deeds. And we have something from the Sufiya. They say, don't you have anything private with Allah? Don't you want to have if you love somebody, wouldn't you love to have a lot of private things with them? Oh, this is only me and you, right? This is only me and him only do this, right? Why would you share that? You don't go have an anniversary and at the middle of the dinner, you take a selfie. Here, my anniversary, and I told her, how much I love her. Why do we need to see that? That's private. So the arifina billah, they say, don't you have anything private with Allah? Why would you share that? So that's al-man. Wal-adha is to harm. And do you think you're not going to be tested? We are all tested, every single one of us, by the company of other Muslims. Allah is going to test your sincerity. You're going to come upon people that your heart may envy, or your heart may be disgusted by, or you may be angered by, or that annoy you. Because this masjid is for everybody. Masjid is not just for angels. Masjid is for fallible people who need help, who have issues, just as you have issues. You bother other people too. You're the source of bother, of annoyance for others, and they're a source of annoyance for you. We're all tested by this. And that's why you got to put on these, what do they call them? Horse blinders. You got to put on those blinders that make you just look straight forward. Don't look left and right. Sayyidina Ali said, if you want your heart to be at peace, then when you walk, look down. Why? Because you're going to see things that either entice you and you can't have them, or they bother you and you can't change them. They annoy me, but I can't change them. Or they anger me and I can't change it. Or it's so beautiful, but I can't have it. So either way, you're hurting yourself. And that's the idea here. Let's read a little bit just for the sake of continuing our reading. And we're going to keep these morning ones short because we've been going since 9 p.m. Khatira, Taraweeh, got a break, then back to the masjid. And then there's basically no reason to sleep before Sahur and Fajr anymore. So we're completely flipped now in terms of night and day. But let's read from the Hadith al-Wilaya. And my slave continues to draw nearer to me with optional acts of devotion, nawafil, until I love him. All right. So these nawafil earn Allah's love. Now you're going to go and negate all these nawafil by entering into drama, damage, hurting other Muslims because you perceive that they're bad or they bothered you. So you now want to go and make sure that they're damaged. No, it's not how. Well, okay, do it. Do it. And you negate all your deeds. Now, when you find yourself on a treadmill, spiritually, you keep doing deeds and getting nowhere. Don't tell me I didn't warn you. It's here. It's in the books. They're telling us exactly why we don't get anywhere. We're moving in motion because we keep negating all our deeds. You strive so much all year, and then in one day, you may say things or enjoy things on behalf of on the backs of other Muslims, filled with some kind of bad feelings towards them, and that puts you right back at the starting line. So that may be why, if we ever feel that we're not benefiting, we're not going anywhere, maybe that's the reason why. Maybe we have something in our deeds that's causing us to go right back to the starting point. All right. There appears to be a problem in reconciling this to the previous statement, given that the fara'id are the most beloved of the works to Allah. Okay, so how can they themselves not bring his love? So if Allah loves the fara'id so much, then why don't the fara'id cause Allah to love a person? Why do nawafil cause Allah to love the person? The nawafil meaning the extra deeds and the fara'id meaning the obligatory deeds. The answer here, says Ibn Hajar, is that what is meant by nawafil is the totality of practices, which includes the fara'id and perfects them. Okay, so the fara'id are like the frame of the house, and the nawafil is everything else. Okay, so when the frame of the house is set, that's the most important thing. And then you do all the other things in the house, the lesser important things, but that which makes the house complete, then Allah's love is bestowed, because now the entire thing is complete. Moreover, it is customarily the case that drawing near takes place with something other than that which is obligatory for the one who seeks proximity to Allah, such as a gift, in contrast to, for instance, taxation or the repayment of a debt. All right. So if someone owes you a debt and they pay you, gave them a loan, they pay you back, you say thank you. That's it. But if someone comes and they never took a loan from you, but they give you a gift, now you love them, right? So nawafil, it completes the fara'id and it makes the person complete. Their ibadah complete, and then the love is descended upon the person. He says, Further, one of the reasons for the existence of nawafil is to compensate for inadequately discharging the fara'id. So if you have, let's say, 30% absent-mindedness in your salah, you had Salat al-Fajr, you're only focusing 70% of the time. But if you had 2 rak'ahs before Fajr, and in those 2 rak'ahs you were focusing 50% of the time, then you can take that 50 on Yawm al-Qiyamah, or that's how it works. That 50% of focus will be plugged into the missing 30%. It leaves you with a net gain of 20%. That's how the fara'id are completed by the nawafil. So the more nawafil you do, you can go on Yawm al-Qiyamah with 100% for your fara'id, because all the absent-mindedness of the fara'id will be filled in by the nawafil. And of course, many people, mostly we do more nawafil than fara'id. If you think, for example, tarawih, okay, plus all the sunan, plus tahajjud, plus tahiyyat al-masjid, plus salat al-haja, for example, or istikhara, add all of that up, you may in your lifetime have more nawafil than fara'id. He says further, one of the reasons for the existence, said this, or sound hadith narrated by Muslim, which says, look and see if my slave has some nawafil by which his faridah may be completed. This makes it clear that drawing close with optional acts of devotion takes place for those who have performed what is obligatory, not for those who fail to do so. One of the great ones has remarked, whoever is too busy with his obligations to do what is optional has an excuse, while he who was too busy with what is optional does not have an excuse to fulfill the obligation. Such a person is beguiled and led astray. So you can have obligations without nawafil, but you can't have the opposite. All right, let's stop here. Let's go to the live chat and see what's going on. All right, we have some salam from the usual crew: G Spice, Aisha Rauf, Norfolk One, Falak, Suhaib, Samreen, Nazli, Double A, Imran, Harris Amin, Aisha Mukhtar, Double A. Now, Double A says, I found out how to make it on YouTube. It is Nabiz. I made a mistake and said Thalbiz. Yes, that's why I had never heard of Thalbiz. What she meant is Nabiz. Nabiz is essentially it's homemade fruit drink, basically, that you put any fruit in water, but they keep it there for a while until it ferments lightly, a fermentation that does not make you drunk. That's Nabiz. That's the idea behind Nabiz. It's a fermentation that does not make a person drunk. Essentially, that's what it is. Double A says, can men and women wear gold and silver? Women can wear anything, but men cannot wear jewelry except for one ring, and it can be silver. It can be anything but gold. Gold is obviously haram, and steel is makruh, because steel is mentioned as being the chains of the fire, of the hellfire. But they can only wear one ring, and the sunnah is to wear a silver ring, but only one. Double A says, when going to Umrah, what do they mean when people say there are 3 miqats? Please explain with examples. Well, there are actually 5 miqat. And what is a miqat? Miqat is the place where you have to wear your ihram. It's a boundary. Mecca is surrounded by 5 miqats, and if you're coming for Hajj and Umrah, you have to put your ihram on before you pass that miqat point. That's what they mean. And so, for example, the miqat for us coming from the west is Rabigh, which is outside of Jeddah, which means that when you're flying in, if you're flying into Jeddah, you need to have ihram on before you get into Jeddah. And usually any flight or whatever, they'll tell you that you're soon be passing the miqats point. Harris Amin says, yes, it would be characterized as mental abuse these days. Someone says, go plow through the book. That's true. Yeah. And it was excruciating to go through it. But, and here's the thing, we're flexible creatures, right? Human beings. You just get used to it. And that's the beauty of us being humans, is that we get used to anything. SubhanAllah. You get used to it and you realize that you're learning so much despite the pain of it. It was painful. I mean, who wants to spend from 8 to 12, 8 to, I think it was 8 to 12, just finding the chapter, forget now reading it. And you're not even that great at Arabic yet. And you have to get the dictionary, and he's writing his Arabic from that style and that language. And he's talking about locations that don't even exist anymore. And it was really difficult, right? Just excuse me for 1 second. I'll be right back. I just have to do something. I have to get the charger and I'll be back. Just give me 30 seconds. All right. Sorry about that. Fasih says, for purposes of Laylatul Qadr worship, is it correct that the night worship begins after Maghrib? Yes, that's correct. And when does the night end? It ends at Fajr, as soon as the adhan goes off. Moose says, do you know if the Prophet ﷺ gave a specific explanation or reason as to why marriage is half of the deen? No, there wasn't a specific reason, but one of the reasons is that the virtues of the human being that we want to develop and hopefully will cause us to enter Jannah, there can only be fulfilled if we get married. For example, providing, whether we provide care or provide finances. This is a massive, massive, massive amount of sadaqah. It's a massive amount of sadaqah, whether you do it through emotions and caregiving or providing, financial providing. It's a massive sadaqah that you're doing. As soon as you have children in the world, you start being concerned about your society, your community, and the future. You do good deeds that go beyond your children, but you're only doing them for your children. Now, let's say you didn't have children. You wouldn't have to really be part of a lot of things that you're doing. You wouldn't have to do it. You don't really worry about the local community, what it's like. If I don't like this community, I'll go to another community. You don't need to build if you don't have children. So the deeds that people do that enter them into paradise and that develop their virtues, such as sabr, generosity, karam, sabr being patience, generosity, mercy, compassion, all these things, the prerequisite is marriage and family. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ said it's half your deen. Double A says, who was Ibn Khaldun? He was a historian and a sociologist. Some people say he was the founder of sociology, which was that the study of why society behaves the way it does. Harris Amin says, what to feel about someone taking something from you without a Sharia right? You should fight it in court, in my opinion. If you can't fight it in court because it's too sensitive, let's say it's family and you don't want to take them to court, or let's say it could be a dispute within the masajid. Sometimes masajid have disputes and you don't want to take that to court, or it's a friend and there's no way you're taking your friend to court. If you can't do that, then all we have is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we have to become like one of the two brothers of two sons of Adam. The Prophet ﷺ says, be like one of the two sons of Adam, which is the one who refused to fight. He refused to fight because sometimes you can't. Sometimes you really just can't. There's no way for you to fight. We don't want to be like these people that, that there's a masjid that's been having lawsuits for a decade, like one lawsuit after another. And the weird thing is that they all still pray in the same mosque. They're suing each other. It's terrible. Kenza says, please keep Tarim and the people of Tarim in your du'as as they were afflicted with torrential destructive rain. Really? Ajib, I didn't know this. SubhanAllah. Sister Nazi says, but it's all social media. When we share what we have or what we're doing, there's always a risk of making someone feel bad. It's terrible, absolutely terrible. This thing of influencers, and I see some people, they share their entire married life on social media. Muslims. I want to tell them, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're going to acquire, forget what you're doing to other people, what you're doing to yourself. You're going to get so much hasad on you. You're not even going to know what hit you. That's exactly what's going to happen. You're going to receive so much hasad you're not even going to know what happened to you. Besides that, it's not becoming, and there's all sorts of other things to say about this. But, sometimes people show me, this influencer and what are they doing? Sometimes it's funny. I have to admit they put on like these skits that are funny or whatever, but your entire, married life is on Instagram. Why would you do something like that? And it's all fake, by the way. Not all those influencers, but I know people. If you go to their Instagram, you would think they live the best life. You see them in real life, they're a miserable wreck. I don't have friends. They're a disaster. They're depressed. It's completely false. Nafis says, actually, these days, people do take a selfie and post it on social media in the middle of the anniversary dinner. Oh, this is a thing now? SubhanAllah. I was saying it like something so ridiculous, but I guess it's a thing. Fatima Bamba says, does the action of the believer, the good deed, precede the love of Allah or vice versa? Ibn Atta suggests Allah gifts a deed out of generosity. Allah Ta'ala gifts us the deed, and we have the ability to either give the deed its haqq, its right, or not. Allah Ta'ala gave us Sawm. We're all fasting and we're praying Taraweeh. Now we have the option. Are we going to give it its haqq by doing it right and doing it properly? All right. Or are we going to allow ourselves just to be distracted and waste it? So Allah gives us this gift, and it's really up to us whether or not we treat it right and maximize its potential, or waste it and squander it. Aisha Mukhtar says, listen back to videos I missed, and please expand on concepts of personal shaitan, which is protected from dhikr, and then bigger shaitans. Okay, very quickly, you got three types of shayateen out there. You got one, the small shayateen, all they want to do is get you to do any kind of sin. If they can't get you to do one sin, they'll get you to do another sin. They don't care what sin you do, as long as you're doing some sin. There is the bigger shayateen who come in after the small ones succeed. So if the smaller shayateen succeed, they cloud up your heart. They darken it. Right? Once your heart is darkened, now the bigger shayateen want you to take a wrong turn on aqidah, beliefs, matter of belief. The bigger shayateen, they're not interested in getting you to smoke or drink or do those things, because you can make tawbah from that, right? They want to get you to do bid'ah in beliefs, in aqidah. They want to screw up your aqidah, essentially. Because if they do that, then it doesn't matter what kind of ibadah you do after that. You're going to be lost. The third type of shayateen is the shaitan that each one of us has been assigned. Prophet ﷺ told us all this. What do we know about shayateen? This is not an observable science. This is only what the Prophet and the Quran tells us. That shaitan, he's with us, and he's called al-qareen. A qareen. Qareen means the one who is with you all the time. That qareen, he may be guided. Your behavior may guide him. Your knowledge, the things that he is exposed to may transform him. The Prophet ﷺ said his qareen has entered Islam. Yeah, so it's not impossible for that to happen. But the qareen is assigned to you to lead you astray. And he's immune from your dhikr. We know that dhikr burns the shayateen, but not this one. This qareen, he will be fine. He's not affected by dhikr. Allah has given him like an encasing that will make him immune to dhikr. And so he's there to lead you astray. And that's why many people are great worshipers, but they still go astray. Why? Because their qareen is not affected by all their worship. And their qareen was able to get them to go astray in matters of religion. Fatima Bamba says, is the generosity necessarily love for the believer? This is generosity from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. if you can clarify what you meant by that, Fatima, because of course I'm reading this on a delay. I'm reading this after the fact, so the context may have been lost. But Allah's generosity is not always his love. He's generous to us because he's rewarding an act that we've done. So it could be and it could not be. It could be simply a compensation of a person's act and he gives them a little extra. But Allah's love is specifically comes with it guidance. That he may give us something, but specifically when Allah loves an abd, that abd does not necessarily experience an increase in anything more than guidance. Oh, it's connected to her previous question, she says. So let's see that. Does the action of the believer precede the love of Allah or vice versa? I see what you're saying. Ibn Atta'illah suggests Allah gifts the deed out of generosity. He gifts us the deed, and it could be a test. He gifts us the deed. Let's say many Muslim youth are born and their parents take them to the Quran school. That's a gift. There's also a test. How are you going to respond to it? So giving us the deed is not necessarily his love. It could be and it could not be. It could be a test. It could be a test. It all depends on how we react to it. If we react to it positively and we give this deed its due, ikhlas, we do it right, then we may interpret it that as his love. We may interpret that giving as his love. Just like if you were to get a big a cash settlement, for example, you just got awarded $250,000 from some kind of settlement, just popped in the mail, and here you go. Is it a test? Is it generosity? Is it Allah's love? It all depends how you use it. So how you respond to it will determine that. So if you respond to it by doing something great with it, then yes, this was a gift from Allah with his love because you increased in deen as a result of it. So we actually, we interpret these things after the fact of how we use it. Then we could say, yes, it was a gift. It was generosity of love, or it was a test. Is Islamic charity work fard or nafil ibadah? It's nafilah, but it could be fard ayn, fard kifaya. For example, collecting the zakat and distributing it in every community. There's an obligation on the community to distribute zakat, for example, or to establish the masjid, or to establish Quran schools. This is an obligation on the community. So the one who does it, when he fulfills it, he causes all the community to be free from the responsibility thereafter. We call that fard kifaya, communal obligation. Mo Abdi says, is there any books or online courses you recommend for new Muslims and born Muslims who never learned the deen? Well, Safina Sadi has a playlist on how to pray and how to fast that I think is really good. And there's a good book called Being Muslim that I've seen many people benefit from. The book again is called Being Muslim. Mr. JH says, I'm looking to invest my children's savings from gifts that we have collected and saved into their accounts. I know you mentioned investing in stocks, but it's also advisable to buy gold. Gold these days, it's going to take years for it to appreciate. It just went down. It was at 13 a year ago. Everyone was buying, thinking that it's going to keep going up. It stopped going up and went down. Rather, I think that there are some better investments that, for example, there are some mutual funds that are halal that report, consistent increase, consistent growth, because they invest in companies from all across the industries. And usually they have a condition that it's been profitable for 25 years. So if you have a company that's been profitable for 25 years, it's fairly safe to assume that it's going to continue being profitable. And then they take the portfolio and they cut it up into so many different industries that you don't even understand. For example, some steel industry and, various little industry, things that you never even think twice about. It's not all consumer. Sometimes it's B2B, which is business to business. Companies that do that kind of trade or of business. So I would suggest that, gold it's attractive in it, how it looks and everything, and it is the original currency for sure. But it's going to take years for it to go up. Can the returns in the future be split equally between them? Yes, why not? Yes, you can do that. The only thing that's not equal is the inheritance. But while kids are alive, everything has to be equal. If you buy your son something for $25,000, a car, for example, you got to do the same thing for your other kids, whether they're sons or daughters. Aisha Mukhtar says, what are the ways that all the hasad from people affects one? Hasad can affect a person by them having conflicts. So if you see two friends and someone gives hasad to them and looks at them, many people give hasad without even intending it, right? But they see that and something moves in their heart at the same time that they look at them, that's the hasad will be affected on them. So they may have a conflict. Things like that. Hasad can cause somebody to be exhausted and no longer being able to function very well. Hasad can result in the loss of wealth. It can result in car crashes or just scrapes or fines and things that put you back financially. Anything bad, essentially. Fatima Bamba says, do we have any info about the beatific vision for the believers? Yes, if you go to the books such as Imam al-Ghazali's Death and Afterlife, there's a section on the vision there, Ar-Ru'ya, the vision of Allah. Mo Abdi says, Zakat al-Fitr should go towards the community one lives in, right? I'm in Toronto, but my family tends to send the money back home overseas. The dominant opinion is yes, that it should be given to the community that you live in. If it's discharged and given out of the community, so you send it back home because your family's in need there, inshallah, it is still valid. But the higher priority is to give it where you live, and that's for zakat too, zakat al-mal. Why? There are people, when we go to the masajid, they see us rolling up in really nice cars. They see our kids all dressed up in fancy shoes and nice clothes all the time. They see that our kid gets new shoes every 5 months. You don't think they see this in the masjid? They see this. They hear your conversations that they're not part of. Zakah is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove that envy by them knowing that part of your wealth is theirs. In Islam, unlike socialist or capitalist economic systems, you don't simply have to work for every penny that you get. The wealth of the rich is also partly yours. Why? So that you don't envy the rich. And when you don't envy the rich, you don't create movements like communism that try to destroy them, right? So zakah is a great mechanism for the hearts of people. And if we're going around the masajid and the community, and many people see that there are clearly people who are well off, and I'm not that well off, but we pray together. Every week we pray together. I don't get any of that. You're just going to bypass me and send it way back home? That's not right. Every week I sit here looking at you and your new Tesla and your kids' new Air Jordans. and your wife's new purse, and I see you in the bathroom making wudu, taking off that fancy watch. That's what goes in the minds of certain people. But when they know that I actually own, it's my right, it's my money, some of your money is mine, that all of a sudden makes them feel a lot happier. So in the other economic systems, wealth is only earned. You have to do something to get wealth. Not in Islam. Not in Islam. The poor have a haqq. It is their wealth. It's theirs. Right. So that's the wisdom of giving zakat into your locality. All right. Hanaf is how ETFs like all these things that he's saying are Sharia compliant. Good. Well done. Also, there's Hupu Financial, which are they're good too. How do we shield our kids from hasad? The al-awrads. You shield your kids from hasad by awrads. Go to safinasociety.org/wird and start doing al-wird al-latif every morning and al-ratib al-shahir every night. If that's too heavy for you, then just do al-ratib al-shahir every single night with your kids. Just let them listen to it. All right, let me type it in here really quick. It's on YouTube, it's on SoundCloud, and the PDF is there. Everything that you need is there. It's downloadable, and you can get it YouTube, SoundCloud, either one. They're both there. And listen to them. Start putting them in your phone, put them in your car, download, strip it down, put it in your phone. When you're driving in the morning, you listen to one. In the afternoon, you listen to the other. Before the kids go to bed, you make sure that they listen, and eventually they will memorize al-ratib. They'll memorize it and make sure that they say it before they go to bed. All right, folks, that's it, because we're now in the entering into 6 o'clock. So let's stop here. Jazakumullahu khairan, everybody. Nazli says, is it good to just put it on at home? I'm assuming she's talking about the awrad. Yes, you just put it on. And then if you say it with your tongue is superior, but if you can't do that, just put it on. Yeah, put it on. Right. But if you're listening to it, there's good in that. But to say it is even better. Aisha Mukhtar, what are we going to do after Ramadan? We're going to find a schedule, for the simple reason that Fajr doesn't always work for everyone. Everyone prays Fajr at a different hour after Ramadan, but we will find a time, inshallah, to continue these types of talks before, so that we don't just cut off. It may be an evening, maybe an evening will be the best thing. Allah knows best, but we'll see. What happens. Last year we tried to do it, but everyone prays Fajr at a different hour, and it just didn't work out exactly. So we'll find a time though, inshallah. We'll just keep trial and error until we get the right time, inshallah. All right, everyone. Jazakumullahu khairan. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruk wa natubu ilayk. Wal asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. يا نفس إن تظفري لا تجزعي يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تجزعي وإلى موائد جود مولاك يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تجزعي وإلى موائد جود مولاك وإذا تأخر مطلب فلربما في ذلك
التأخير كل المطمع فاستأنسي بالمنع وارعي حقه إن الرضا وصف المنيب الألمع وإذا بدا من ناطق الوجدان ما يدعوك للياس الذميم الأشنع فاستيقظي من نومة الغفلات وليكن الرجاء لك مرتعا فيه ارتعي يكن الرجاء يكن الرجاء لك مرتعا فيه ارتعي إن العطاء إمداد متنوع إن العطاء إمداد متنوع يا حسن هذاك العطاء المتنوع وردوا على نهر الحياة وكلهم شربوا وكم فرت من متضلعين حاشا الكريم يردهم عطشا وقاد وردوا وأصل الجود من ذا المنبع أصل الجود من ذا المنبع يا رب لي ظن جميل وافر قدمته أمشي به يسعى معي يا رب يا لي ظن جميل وافر قدمته أمشي به يسعى معي كل الذي يرجون فضلك كل الذي يرجون فضلك امطروا حاشاك أن يبقى هشيم